Online dating partners can be very clingy. I didn't reply to a message for a while. He just kept bombarding me with messages. I had to quietly reply to reassure him. I just sent it. The phone of the head of the company sitting next to me rang with a special alert tone. Later, I found out that the online dating partner had lied to me. He can be very clingy. If I don't reply to a message for a while, he just keeps bombarding me with messages. I had to quietly reply to reassure him. As soon as I sent the message, the phone of the head of the parent company next to me started beeping. I'm a bit sensitive. If you don't reply to me after a while, I worry if something's happened to you. My boyfriend of just 1 week in an online relationship said this. I quickly typed to comfort him. I almost broke the screen of my phone. As soon as I sent the message, the phone of the leader who came to inspect at the back of the meeting room also started beeping. Everyone turned around and looked back, including me. Our young and promising CEO took out his phone without a care in the world. He started to mess around with it in a very public way. Just then, my young wolf sent a message. Sister, you're so heartless. You've got me and then you ignore me. I'm so nervous inside. As a nearly 30-year-old veteran of the workplace, I met a tall and handsome college student online. Every day I feel incredibly excited. I can't wait to show him my heart. I've just finished replying to a message. Behind me, the distinctive beep sounds again. This time, everyone is calmer. No one dares to look at the leader, who has been teased for goofing off. I say to my brother, stop it. I can't support myself if I don't work, and if I work, I won't have time for you. I'm having a good chat with my brother. Suddenly, someone calls out to me. Emily, do you have any ideas? I was taken aback. I immediately put down my phone. I kept shaking my head and waving my hands. No comment. The manager is right. The manager announced immediately. Okay, then we congratulate Emily. She has been given the only opportunity in our company to go to the headquarters for an exchange. Headquarters, Chicago, the same city as my brother. Happiness came too suddenly. I was so excited that I almost jumped up. I couldn't stop smiling in the midst of the applause. In order to surprise my brother, I deliberately didn't tell him that I was going to work in Chicago. The day after the company transfer order came down, I quickly packed my bags. I went straight to my beloved job. The plane flew for 2 hours. I never replied to the message. My brother must have been anxious. He sent me a message asking, "What are you doing? Have you ignored me? It's been an hour. It seems you really don't care about me." I flipped through my phone. I saw more than 20 unread messages. I was overjoyed. It was time to get a new phone. I couldn't even receive messages from my sister. Coming to Chicago was really the best decision I've ever made. My brother and I met in a game. He was really good at playing the character lie-by. He won the game for us in just 10 minutes. Because my voice sounds so gentle and sweet, he agreed to add me as a friend in the game. Since then, we've often happily teamed up to play games together. We have voice chats in the game. I learned that he was a junior at a top university in Chicago. He was well-built, handsome, and countless girls liked him. Wasn't this the ideal gaming partner I had been looking for? Maybe it was my personality that attracted my younger brother. He added me on WeChat. With WeChat, I was afraid I couldn't win him over, but although I successfully captured my younger brother, his gaming level inexplicably dropped. He is obedient and loves to be spoiled. He is also very good at talking. How could I not like him? Of course I have to spoil him. The day the people from the branch offices who had been sent to us for exchanges arrived at the head office for the first time, the company arranged a small welcome party for us. During the ceremony, the bald head of the company enthusiastically reviewed the company's glorious history. I was sitting in the penultimate row. I could even feel the saliva flying as he spoke. When the leader is speaking, it is often a good opportunity to fool around. I can't help it. I take out my phone again. My brother still hasn't sent me a message. Usually, my brother, who is always online almost all day, takes the initiative to contact me. This time, he didn't even send me a message. Why didn't he reply to me? Is it because I didn't send a message first? He suddenly changed. I noticed it as soon as I arrived in Chicago. I kept thinking about my brother's cold attitude towards me. I didn't even notice when the bald head in charge finished his speech. It suddenly became quiet around me. I saw in the corner of my eye that my colleague, who was playing with her phone, quickly put it away. She sat up straight. She looked so nervous. I looked up. I happened to see the big boss, whom I had only met once. He was standing at the end of my row. He leaned slightly forward. He looked at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. Pop, my phone dropped to the ground in fear. The screen shattered. I have always been very cautious. I have never been caught slacking. Why did something always happen when I was at the head office? The colleagues in front of me all turned their heads. They looked at me, who was in a daze. Then they looked at the boss, who seemed a little unhappy. Everyone was so nervous that they didn't dare to make a sound. Fortunately, the boss was magnanimous. He didn't dwell on the matter. He quickly averted his gaze. He walked towards the podium. The person in charge immediately beamed. He handed him the microphone. The boss began to say some polite things. I had just relaxed. But then the boss suddenly changed the subject. Next, we will invite a representative to summarize the manager's speech. My heart, which had just let go, suddenly started to race again. My chest felt heavy. I had a bad feeling. The manager handed me a list. This was really bad timing. I could hardly breathe. My phone had also fallen to the ground. Then I heard the boss on the stage call out my name coldly. Emily. I subconsciously raised my hand. James. My boss, his gaze fell on me. His eyes were unfathomable. See, before I had even started work, I had already annoyed the big boss twice. I complained about life being too bitter. Life said to add some sweetness. I asked what sweetness was. He said to add some absurdity. The first day, the elites from all the branches got together. I went on stage and talked nonsense. I lost face. The screen on my phone had broken. It would cost over 1,000 yuan to repair it, not to mention replacing the phone. I was distracted all day. Finally, it was time to go home. I hurried to the phone store. I didn't even go to the dinner with my new colleagues. My phone had all my lover's messages. I worked all night. Finally, I was able to log into WeChat, but I didn't find a single message. I froze. This was so strange. All kinds of thoughts raced through my head. Do relationships among university students change so quickly these days? I couldn't quite figure it out. Early the next morning, I couldn't hold back any longer. I went to look for him again. If you're still alive, send me a message. After waiting for 10 minutes, he finally replied, I'm here. What do you mean you're here? You better explain yourself. Where the hell were you yesterday? I was busy. Listen to me. Stop messing around. I'm really angry. I made a special trip to Chicago, even though it was for work, and even though I hadn't told him I was in town. But how could he treat me like that? This month, I decided to say goodbye to my blues and adopt a brand new summer look. I positioned myself as a woman crazy about love, a hopeless romantic who is willing to give her heart. I posted this status update in my circle of friends, and they all liked and supported me. Chris has been single for so many years. How could there be love if he did get off the market? I'll broadcast myself eating my keyboard. The comment section is in chaos. No one understands my loneliness. The company has recently taken on several major projects. Everyone is busy as hell. I heard that even the boss has been working overtime for several days in a row. But what does that have to do with me? I'm still in pre-job training. I'm inexperienced. I'm just an ordinary lovehead. Recently, I feel that my younger brother is becoming more and more indifferent to me. I stare at the chat history, which is getting less and less. I feel worried in my heart. I can't help scratching my head. I hold back for a whole week. I finally decide to go to his school and look for him. I want to surprise him. I stand in front of the Harvard University entrance. I send a message to my brother. Me, what are you doing? My brother, just thinking about you. Me, cut the crap. Take a picture of your surroundings. I want to check it out. After sending the message, a lot of confused thoughts suddenly came to my mind. Why did my brother suddenly stop cooperating? Could it be that there was a girl next to him holding his hand? Love really makes people confused. I walked aimlessly around the campus. My eyes wandered back and forth over the tall male students. I started to think, am I so obsessed with relationships? Does it have to be my brother? No. Walking on the lively campus, looking at these energetic male college students, I felt an indescribable sense of sweetness in my heart. See, I'm still the same. I like the one I see. After half an hour, I felt a lot more relaxed, just as I was about to enjoy the sweetness of love. My brother finally replied. He sent a short video. The camera first swept across the playground and finally stopped on his legs and the hand holding the football. To be honest, after so long, it was the first time I'd seen my brother show off his body. Looking at his firm calf muscles, I realized he was indeed my type. Then, holding the video in my hands, I asked a passing classmate. She enthusiastically pointed me in the direction of the football field in the video. I walked into the football field. Standing at the entrance, I looked inside. There were people playing football on both fields. 2 of them were wearing dark blue jerseys, just like my brother. Not bad. Both of them are tall, athletic boys. I pulled out my phone. I said to her. "Honey, I have a surprise for you." My brother replied immediately. "What?" I glanced over. I quickly spotted my brother in the dark blue jersey holding the phone. He looked so handsome, full of youthful energy, so full of life. Although his skin was a bit dark, but it was exactly my type. Guess where I am right now? My brother. What? I put the phone down. My mouth corners lift up involuntarily. I finally calm down. I slowly walk towards my younger brother who is playing with his phone. I walk up behind him. He is typing on the phone intently. Just then, my phone in my pocket vibrates. Yes, it's him. I tap him on the shoulder lightly. I call out to him. "Alex." My brother turns his head. He looks at me with confusion. I wink confidently at him and pointed to his phone. Then, I froze. "Alex, someone's looking for you." My brother shouted across the field. A boy in a dark blue jersey stopped. He too looked at me with confusion. Alex walked over, pulled up his shirt and wiped the sweat, revealing his toned abs. He asked, "Who are you?" he asked coldly, his eyes full of defiance. I froze for a long time and whispered my name. He first frowned, looking a little confused. After a moment, he understood. He relaxed his guard, but still looked puzzled. "Why are you in Chicago? How do you know I'm here?" I felt something was a little wrong. I pulled out my phone and saw a message from my brother. Surprise! He saw that I hadn't replied and sent another cute emoticon. Alex stood in front of me, without a phone in his hand. I briefly answered his question. "Business trip, calculated." Alex nodded, not quite understanding the location. He turned around and called his teammate. He said to me, "I'll go back to the dormitory to change clothes. Then I'll take you to our school cafeteria for dinner." But I no longer looked forward to it as much as before. I shook my head. I found an excuse and left first. I felt like I had been tricked. Alex's voice was exactly the same as the one I played games with at the beginning, but he was completely different from the person I had struck up a friendship with on WeChat, who suddenly became a terrible player and refused to turn on his microphone. Alex was just a teammate I happened to meet in the game. The person who really captured my heart was actually someone else. I didn't expect it. I was almost 30. I actually had a good feeling about someone because of a few lines of text. Half an hour later, I was still wandering around outside the school. My younger brother asked me, "Where are you?" Alex had probably already told him about my sudden visit to Chicago. Maybe they sensed that something was up. I was trying to figure out how to handle the situation. I kept editing the message on my phone, deleting and rewriting and deleting. I couldn't figure it out. Suddenly, I heard a horn behind me. I looked back. A black car was slowly following me. I stopped. I looked curiously into the car. The car also stopped. The window slowly lowered. The person in the car stuck his head out. The street was full of people. Many young people were walking leisurely. I suddenly felt that I might have made a mistake. In the car, James looked at me expressionlessly. When he made eye contact with me, he gently honked the horn. Suddenly, two girls ran over with smiles on their faces. I didn't have time to avoid them. They ran right into me. Immediately afterwards, my phone, which I had just fixed, fell heavily to the ground again. I understood. James and I really didn't get along. James called out to me, "Emily." During my first week at the new job, the boss already knew my name. I couldn't tell if that was a good thing or a bad thing. At that moment, a girl accidentally bumped into my phone. She quickly apologized and picked up the phone and handed it to me. I wiped the dust off the phone. I pressed several times, but the screen didn't respond. Oops, I'm really unlucky. The girl who bumped into me was about to cry. She saw my phone's screen go black. She was even more upset than I was. She was so flustered that she couldn't even speak. She kept staring at me. "Never mind. I'm getting paid anyway. This girl obviously goes to school. It might take her a month's living expenses to fix my phone." I waved my hand. "It's fine. I didn't hold it properly. Just be more careful when you're playing around in the future." The girl was surprised and happy. She bowed and thanked me. James honked the horn again. He said to me, "Get in the car, you can't park here." I was a little confused, but I didn't dare to disobey the boss, so I obediently got into the car. I just sat in the passenger seat. I hadn't fastened my seat belt yet. James already stepped on the accelerator. The car drove out of the busy street. I glanced at him secretly. I asked cautiously, "James, why are you here?" "I just happened to be passing by." I was really touched. It's really rare to have such a good boss. He saw me when he passed by and specially gave me a ride. Last time I slacked off and he found out. He didn't say anything to me. I said, a little embarrassed. "Thank you, James, for giving me a ride. You can just drop me off at the subway station." Suddenly, my smile froze. "You have to come back to the office with me and work overtime." Hey, I was really touched. The true face of the capitalist was completely revealed. Today is Saturday. Even if there is work to do, the company is so big. How could it be my turn as a newbie who has just finished training? I silently followed James back to the office. The CEO's office was surprisingly quiet. Every desk was clean and tidy. The files and materials were also neatly arranged. The head office is just different. Even the tidiness of the office is much better than the branch office. James walked into the president's office. When he saw me still standing there, he called out to me. I hurriedly followed him. As soon as I entered the luxurious president's office, I felt like a country bumpkin entering the Grand View Garden. I quietly observed the layout of the office. For a moment, I felt like I shouldn't be here. There was a row of tall bookshelves across the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was full of all kinds of documents. James was standing next to the bookshelf. He pointed to a cardboard box and said to me, "Come and help me sort these documents." I understood. The skilled work was not for me. I was just the poor guy the boss had temporarily dragged in to do the manual labor. I put the full box of documents on the shelves, one by one, according to category. From time to time, I looked up. I saw James staring at the computer with a serious expression. So the boss had to work overtime too. My heart felt a little lighter. I buried my head in the paperwork. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. I looked up. The sun was about to set outside the window. James closed the file in his hands. He asked me, "Are you done?" I nodded and said, "James, do you have any other questions?" According to company regulations, employees are paid overtime, but my overtime wasn't processed properly. I didn't have the boss's approval. I went to the finance department to collect my overtime pay. People must have thought I was crazy. Just as I was about to give up, James spoke again. "What's your WeChat ID? I'll pay you for the overtime." I looked up happily. I reached for my phone, but then I remembered that it was not working again. James saw my troubled expression. He guessed the reason. He handed me his phone. The screen displayed a friend search interface. I carefully took the expensive boss's phone. I entered my WeChat ID. Then I clicked add. After I had done this, James went back to his desk. He took a box out of the drawer. The large logo on the box told me that it was the latest model of a certain brand of phone. From what I knew about phones, that phone cost at least 2 months of my salary. Immediately afterwards, those 2 months of salary were handed to me. I looked at James with a puzzled expression. I still didn't understand what was going on. "Last time and this time, your phone broke. I'm responsible for both times. This is for you." I'd never expected such treatment. The sudden surprise left me a little dazed. I said polite words to decline, but my hand couldn't help but take the phone. "You're the best boss in the world. I will definitely work my hardest for you." When I got home, I quickly switched to my new phone. It was already past 7. As soon as I opened WeChat, I saw a striking red number 10 on the top of the chat box. It was like the brightest star in the night sky. It attracted me to read the unread messages. I saw an urgent message from my brother. The anger in my heart finally subsided. It dispersed like a wisp of smoke. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied to you with Alex." His words were full of remorse. At first, giving you WeChat was actually Alex's prank. It was like a childish prank, he continued. But then, in our daily chats, I was truly attracted to you. Like a magnet. You like playing games, so I learned to play too, although I'm not very good at it. I'm always fumbling and make a lot of jokes. I didn't tell you because you had a crush on Alex at first. I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you would leave me like the wind, never to speak to me again. Can you give me some more time? I'll find a time to meet you and tell you everything in person. It's like lifting a veil of mystery. Several cute emoticons were sent afterwards. It made my heart ache. It was like being touched gently by a tender hand, although I was deceived. I have to say, it was really fun chatting with this younger brother. We felt like we got along really well. It's like drinking a cold drink on a summer's day. It's so refreshing. Every time we chat back and forth, I can't hold back the feeling of joy and excitement. It's completely real. My fondness for him also came after I added him on WeChat. After chatting more, it slowly began to grow. Just like the spring grass, it grew quietly. His favorite foods, songs, and drinks are almost exactly the same as mine. It's like another me. He can always catch the punchline I throw perfectly. It's like a tacit partner. It makes chatting a breeze. Once, I was influenced by the love outlook of a short video. I threw him a 500,000-word romance novel. The content was lengthy. It was like wrapping cloth. A week later, he actually discussed the plot of the book with me seriously. He also analyzed the right and wrong values in the book. Obviously, he finished reading the whole book, and I didn't even manage to finish reading the book. After he found out my address, he would occasionally send me little surprises, rainbow-colored flowers, silky mellow milk tea, delicate, almost art-like cupcakes. I casually complained to my friends about not being able to grab a dress in the pre-sale. The next day, he magically got it for me. It was like magic. He conjured up something I had always dreamed of. Such a brother full of initiative and capable of being cute and charming. Who can resist his charm? What's more, I've always projected an image of him as a college student over 180 cm tall with abs. Tall, handsome, and full of energy. I forced myself to calm down. I replied to him. One thing is important. The other person replied immediately. What is it? It sounded like he was interested. His tone was full of expectation. Are you also a college student over 180 cm tall with abs? I asked tentatively. He didn't answer immediately. He fell silent. He suddenly seemed to be under a spell. Not a word came out of him. I knew it. It was too good to be true. How could such a perfect younger brother just fall from the sky? He hesitated for a moment. Then he replied slowly. The first two conditions are met, but I'm a little older than Alex. 2 minutes passed. His voice sounded a little distant. A little older. Not impossible, I thought to myself. I didn't reply. He sent another message anxiously. You like students, maybe I should apply for another degree. His tone was a little pleading and helpless. I saw him post about applying for another degree. Suddenly, I imagined him wearing a bachelor's gown and cap. Oh, so he's a graduate student. That's pretty impressive. He's kind of a nerdy academic, I asked again. So when are you coming to see me? My heart was full of anticipation and anxiety. He replied, a month at the most. Is that okay? I still have some things to take care of. His words made me feel really bad. A month. I was really angry. I was only going to be in Chicago for a year, but he was going to come see me a month later. I didn't have that much time to wait for him. Was there something more important than me? Was there another girl distracting him? I was so angry. In a fit of rage, I blocked him. It was like cutting the connection between us in an instant. After dealing with all this, I slowly started replying to other people's messages. Then, I clicked on the friend request. I saw the cartoon avatar with the style of a wild king. After thinking for a while, I realized this might be the big boss. As a busy big boss, why would he use such a casual avatar in comparison? My younger brother looked more mature and stable. My younger brother's previous avatar was a seascape under the sunset. It looked peaceful and beautiful. Finally, after much cajoling, he agreed to use a cute couple avatar with me. It looked like two little elves snuggled together. I didn't think he would actually add me. I clicked approve. Then I put down my phone and went to take a shower. After the shower, I picked up my phone. I saw that the big boss had transferred some money to me 10 minutes ago. The note said overtime pay, 5,000 yuan. I only spent 2 hours organizing a few books, and I made 5,000. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I quickly claimed the money and sent a few roses to show my gratitude. Then I wrote, James, if you need to work overtime next time, feel free to find me. My mood suddenly improved. The previous troubles caused by blacklisting my younger brother instantly disappeared. Recently, a new colleague joined the project team. Her name was Sophia. Her background was very mysterious. She didn't even attend the induction course. She was immediately given an important position. Sophia took advantage of the manager's absence. She came to talk to me in secret. Just look at her. I guess she came in through the back door. I leaned over to her. Half jokingly, I said, if you say so, the induction course is a good opportunity to get paid to relax. She missed it. What a waste. Sophia listened. Her eyes widened. She gave me a thumbs up and said, you make a lot of sense. Sophia and I didn't think it was a big deal, but the other colleagues on the project team were talking about it. They were very critical of Sophia, until one day, everyone saw the normally serious manager. Suddenly, with a smile on his face, he politely invited Sophia into his office. As soon as the manager's office door closed, everyone let out an involuntary gasp. Everyone knew there were hard and soft sides to the background. Sophia, who could make the manager so polite, her background is probably senior management. Sophia is a real gossip. She went to the pantry for half an hour and came back with big news. I heard that Sophia is the daughter of one of the company's shareholders. She said mysteriously, I think she's quite interesting. So I pretended to be interested and joined the discussion. The daughter of a shareholder is still working as a clerk in the company. It seems that she has quite a career ambition, I said. Sophia shook her head. She has other reasons for coming to the company. After saying that, she looked around carefully. She made sure that no one had noticed us. Then she continued in a low voice. I heard that her father is taking her to dinner with James tonight. The boss. I was a little surprised. Sophia nodded repeatedly. That's right. The boss is famous for being a bachelor, the Golden Bachelor. Many celebrities in Chicago want to be with him. Sophia came to our company. I think she's just after some advantage. When I think of the boss, I immediately think of the 5,000 yuan bonus. James's image in my heart suddenly becomes very big. But when I think of Sophia, I silently cross out this possible combination in my heart. Sophia is indeed very good-looking, but ability, I don't think she's very good. It seems to prove what I think. The next second, a folder slammed onto my desk. I looked up and saw Sophia looking at me with a smile. Her hands were resting on her chin. She said innocently, Emily, the manager just praised you for your ability at work. He told me to learn from you. I looked at her heavily made-up face and affected expression. When I heard her call me sister, I felt a pang of discomfort in my heart. But after so many years in the workplace, I had long since learned to deal with all kinds of situations. What don't you understand? I asked her calmly. What is this? She replied. This is the proposal that the manager asked me to try to revise, but I don't know anything about it. I didn't expect her to be so unconcerned. I opened the folder, pointing to the eye-catching 3 words proposal in the cover. I explained patiently with a smile. These 3 words are proposal. This is the topic. This is the date, I said. I casually flipped through a page, pointing and saying, this is the table of contents. Then I asked, you understand these 2 pages? If you understood, I would have turned the page, I said. Sophia's smile suddenly disappeared. Did I not make myself clear? Sigh, it seems I am not very suitable to take an apprentice. You probably won't learn much from me, I said. Sophia finally couldn't hold back any longer. She shouted, who is your apprentice? I pretended to be ignorant. You said you wanted to learn things from me. Isn't that the same as wanting to take me as your master? The colleagues next to us all listened to our conversation with their ears pricked up. They were all blushing. Sophia finally left in a huff. Sophia leaned over, trying to hide a smile. You've upset her. She'll tell her father and you'll be fired. That's fine, I said, typing away at my computer. If I get fired, I'll go home and take over the family business. Sophia's eyes widened. She was so shocked she couldn't speak. You're not. I interrupted her thoughts. My family has an ancestral pancake stand. Don't look at it as just a pancake stand. It makes more money than I do sitting in an office. Why did she set her sights on me as soon as she arrived? Is my workability really that strong? I asked Sophia. Sophia lowered her head and said with a smile, because you have the best figure. Then he said, I have to work overtime tonight. Could you please order a meal to be delivered to the office for me? A message from James popped up on the screen of my phone a minute ago. I was a little puzzled. Such a big CEO's office. Couldn't there be even one secretary who could order food for the boss? I was still thinking about it. James transferred another sum of money. He said, this is the food fee. The rest is your errand fee. The boss is really generous. He gave 2,000 yuan at one go. He himself would only spend at most 500 yuan. All I had to do was go to the restaurant next to the office building and pick up a few dishes. I could easily earn 500 yuan. Is there anything more cost-effective in the world? 40 minutes later, I walked into the CEO's office with 4 lunch boxes in my hands. James was the only one left working overtime on the entire floor. When he saw me, he took the lunch boxes directly from my hands and placed them on the coffee table. James, if there's nothing else, I'll be going now. Before I could finish speaking and saw him bending over to fiddle with the lunch boxes, the top 2 buttons of his white shirt were unbuttoned. His firm pecs were faintly visible. My eyes unconsciously swept over his Adam's apple and that exceptionally handsome face. I have to say, he is the most outstanding man I have ever met. This kind of mature man who has achieved success in his career is also quite attractive sometimes. James didn't notice that I was looking at him. He took 2 sets of tableware from the cupboard and divided the rice into 2 portions. You ordered too much. I can't finish it. Come and eat with me, he said. James's image in my heart became even more towering. This is embarrassing. I responded with a forced smile. If you're not going to eat it, at least wait until I've finished. Help me clear the table. he continued. Since he had brought it up to this point, what choice did I have? I had to obediently sit down opposite him. James looked so comfortable eating. I wasn't sure what his tastes were, so I ordered both the mild and the spicy dishes. James hardly touched the spicy poached pork. He even picked out the few dried chilies and the stir-fried broccoli. I couldn't help asking, "James, don't you like spicy food?" He said, Don't Chicago people say they can't eat without spicy food?" I was a little puzzled. But then I immediately thought of my younger brother. Although he was born and raised in Chicago, he also doesn't like spicy food. In the end, James cleaned the table by himself. He cares about his subordinates, is generous with his money, and does everything himself. Every move he makes me feel special. The sun had already set. I looked at my watch. I was about to leave, but I saw that James had also picked up his jacket. He asked me, "Where do you live?" He asked for my address. After I told him, he said, "It's on the way. I'll give you a lift." Not only did I earn money, I also got a free meal. I even got a free ride home. I was overjoyed. I followed James to the underground car park, but once in the car, I suddenly remembered something. Didn't Sophia's father say he was taking her to dinner with the big boss tonight? The next morning, I, who was never late, almost didn't make it in time. I finally rushed into the office. The manager wasn't there. Everyone in the office was goofing off. Sophia was surrounded by everyone. They were talking loudly about her. I had dinner with James last night. He was particularly interested in his business, so I went over to listen. We went to a seafood restaurant. After dinner, James even drove me home. Sophia said confidently. It didn't seem like she was exaggerating. She noticed me looking at her, so she shot me a challenging look. "What happened next?" someone asked curiously. This kind of follow-up question was just what Miss Yang wanted. She shook her phone and said, "We added each other on WeChat. We agreed to meet again next time." There was a gasp from the crowd. Then someone started a commotion, wanting to see James's circle of friends. Sophia reluctantly opened WeChat. She handed the phone to the people around her to look at. A sense of satisfaction suddenly welled up in me. I had added the big boss before Sophia. I also opened my phone. I wanted to take a look at James's circle of friends, but when I did, the profile card didn't even display the word circle of friends. "Wow, the big boss's avatar is actually a cartoon character," someone said in amazement. "This profile picture looks like the logo of the Underage Wild King." Another person added, "It looks like a couple's profile picture." Someone else said. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone exclaimed in surprise. I saved that profile picture and used the image recognition function to search for it, but I couldn't find another one like it. They started looking through James's circle of friends. Someone asked, "Does the big boss play a lot of ball?" I couldn't hold back any longer. I stood up from my seat and walked over. Sophia saw me approaching. She stepped aside, making room for me. Her phone was handed to me. The background of the circle of friends was the seascape at sunset I had seen before. However, before it was the profile picture. It was later changed to the background. The cartoon profile picture of a couple in the lower right corner of the background was particularly conspicuous. It didn't really look right for James' age. I had also seen the first circle of friends. It was a photo of a basketball hoop in the sun, but I have James' WeChat ID in my phone. It's not this one at all. I went to Harvard University again. I asked someone at the basketball court I visited last time. Luckily, Alex is good-looking and plays basketball well. His family is also well off. He is quite famous on campus. I asked around and found someone who knows him. That person even sent a message to Alex, telling him that I was here waiting for him. After waiting for almost half an hour, Alex came in with a basketball. I came straight to the point. I asked her directly, "Were you the one who played games with me before?" Alex was a little confused by my sudden arrival, but he nodded. That was his answer to my question. "You gave me your WeChat ID in the game. Is it really yours?" I asked him next. He looked a little embarrassed. It was as if a prank had been revealed, but he still told me. "No, it belongs to my cousin." He glanced at me quietly when he saw that I didn't say anything and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trick you. I just thought you were quite interesting, so I wanted to use you to tease my cousin." Alex pulled me aside and started to tell me the whole story in detail. James had been commissioned by his sister-in-law to keep a close eye on Alex. He even wanted to interfere with his love life. Alex had always felt aggrieved. He felt that his cousin, who hadn't been in a relationship for years, simply didn't understand the appeal of pretty girls. And then it happened. He met me in the game. I happen to like chatting. I talk a lot. and the photo on my game profile looked quite attractive, so he gave me his cousin's WeChat, even the friend request. It was Alex who quietly approved it on James's phone. He originally wanted to use my nagging to make James feel annoyed, but I didn't realize that after James and I had crossed server chat. Not only had we not been deleted as friends, but we had kept in touch. It wasn't until I suddenly went to see him last time that he found out about it. What surprised him even more was that not only had I kept in touch with James, I had even talked to him about online dating. Alex said discontently, "My cousin is such a pain in the neck. He's always butting in. From time to time, he even makes me record videos and take photos to prove that I'm actually at school." These photos and videos became evidence that James was pretending to be a university student. It made me feel that he was a diligent, studious, and energetic university student. After I found out what I wanted to know, I was ready to go. Before I left, Alex said he wanted to add me on WeChat. I remembered that when I was with James, he didn't do very well playing games with me, so I casually asked him, "Why didn't you log into the game again later?" Alex said helplessly, "My cousin said playing games was a waste of time, so he took away my account. If it was a stranger who tricked me, I definitely wouldn't let him get away with it. But this time, it was the company's big boss who tricked me, and I still have to work under him. What else can I do? I can only swallow my anger. Just consider all the emotional investment I've made over this period of time to be wasted." The next day, James went even further. He even asked me to go to the restaurant from last time and buy him lunch. Before, when I was working overtime, the secretary had already gone home. It was understandable for him to ask me to run an errand, but it was broad daylight. It was only 2 minutes before the end of the working day. I just couldn't believe that he couldn't find someone else to buy him lunch. I turned off my phone, pretended not to see it, and happily went with Sophia to the pedestrian street to eat spicy hot pot. After lunch, I came back, took a nap. When I turned on my phone again, I saw a message from James. "Half an hour ago, I waited all lunch without waiting for lunch, and the big boss sent a message." I continued to ignore it. I turned on the computer and started working. I had just finished half of the table. The manager suddenly knocked on my desk. I looked up. I found the manager looking at me. It seems like he wants to say something. I asked him, "Manager, what can I do for you?" The manager hesitated for a moment. He asked me in a low voice, "Are you familiar with James?" I felt that something was wrong, but I pretended to know nothing. "I know him, but he doesn't know me." The manager stroked his chin. He nodded meaningfully. "James wants to see you in his office. The CEO's office on the 26th floor. You know the way." I suspected that James might be taking advantage of his position. I pretended to be surprised. I nodded cautiously. As I was leaving, the manager called out to me again. "Emily, I've always been good to you, haven't I? You have to take responsibility for your work. You understand what I mean, don't you?" "Yes, yes," I mumbled something in response. In fact, he knew very well. He always bossed us around. He lost his temper at the slightest thing, but he did whatever Sophia, who had connections, told him to do. I trudged along towards the CEO's office. This time was different from the previous two. The CEO's office was abuzz with activity. Everyone was working hard. They looked focused. Some people were busy staring at their computers. Some were busy answering the phone. Others were carefully checking documents. Everyone had a clear division of labor. Everything was in order. As soon as I entered the room, the young lady closest to me looked up. She smiled and asked me, "Can I help you?" After I told her my department and the reason for my visit, the lady glanced at the name tag on my chest. Then she stood up and showed me to the door of the CEO's office. I saw the words General Manager's office written on the door. I felt a little nervous, but I knocked on the door anyway. The electronically controlled door opened. I walked in. James looked up from behind his desk. I was just walking towards the desk. The door behind me slowly closed. I had been alone with James before, but this time it felt completely different. He put down the documents he was working on, got up and walked outside his desk, pulled out the chair for his guests. I saw him make an inviting gesture. I wanted to refuse, but I didn't say a word. I obediently sat down. I thought he would go back to his desk and get back to work, but he stopped next to me. He leaned over slightly and stared at me. "Where's my lunch?" he asked. I pretended to be confused. "What lunch?" James took out his phone. He showed me the chat history. I pretended to look at it calmly, but the first thing I saw was the note he had sent me, a little baby who needs to be coaxed. I froze for a moment. Ripples ran through my heart. "Emily," he whispered in my ear. His voice was low and full of magnetism. out of professional habit. I instinctively responded. Here, a light laugh immediately came from my ear. I turned my head away a little embarrassed. He asked me directly, "When are you going to release me from the blacklist?" James no longer hid it. His eyes were burning. It seemed like he wanted to see through me. Since I couldn't pretend to be stupid anymore, I had to muster my courage, look him straight in the eye, and ask, "Why release me?" He stood up, poured me a cup of tea, and said calmly, "I think keeping your boyfriend on the blacklist is not a good idea. If I wasn't afraid of losing my job, I would really like to spit in that annoying face. He is the owner of a large company and is quite old, but he is still learning about online dating like a young person. He even pretended to be a college student to deceive people." I laughed coldly. "A college student with abs." "My brother." James moved closer. Unhurriedly, he unbuttoned his suit jacket. He was wearing a fitted white shirt. The hem of the shirt was tucked into the waistband of his pants. The line of his abdomen was faintly visible. "I'm not entirely lying. Why don't you see for yourself?" he said provocatively. I immediately blushed. I secretly rebuked him for his impolite behavior, but I couldn't help but glance at the outline of his abdomen. To be honest, if James doesn't take over the family business, with his slender waist, long legs, and handsome face, he could definitely make a big success in the entertainment industry. He has been in high positions for a long time. He has a kind of authoritative aura. Coupled with his status as the boss, he makes people feel unapproachable. "You've gone too far." I seriously criticized him. He didn't get angry. He reached straight into my jacket pocket. He was very skilled at this. He knew right away where my phone was. He took out my phone and fiddled with it for a while. He casually entered a few numbers and easily unlocked my password. He and I were both very surprised. I was just guessing. I didn't think I'd get it right. He said happily, "That number was the best result I'd ever had playing the game." I took a screenshot of my score and set it as the background on the game's homepage. I stood up to grab it, but he held his hand high in the air. "We are 20 cm apart. I can't reach it." My foot slipped. I didn't stand firmly. I fell directly into James's arms. He was in a good mood. He put his arm around my waist and said with a smile, "Don't worry, we have plenty of time to take it slowly. Is this still the boss who makes everyone in the company respect him like Buddha? Besides, does he really think he is funny? That kind of artificiality is really unbearable." "James, what exactly do you want to do?" I asked him helplessly. He answered with a firm look in his eyes. "Remove me from the blacklist. It's too exhausting to change the phone number every day with the phone in his hand. I can't do anything even if I'm angry." I had to calm down. I sat back in my chair. After James got my tacit approval, he quickly operated. He skillfully opened WeChat. He removed himself from the blacklist. He said to me, "You shouldn't use that couple's profile picture anymore. It really doesn't look good. I've already changed it all." "Why hasn't he changed it yet?" he obediently said. "Then you pick a nice one." I think I need to have a serious talk with James. "James, online dating is too unreliable. We're both adults. Let's just pretend that nothing happened." "Okay." James sat silently back in his chair. He didn't say another word. I quietly observe him. It feels like he's a little upset. He asks me, "Emily, are you playing with my feelings?" After a while, his tone becomes a little cold. He says, "How can you say that adults are playing with each other's feelings when they want to?" I didn't dare to tell the truth. I just said, "Look, you lied to me too. We're even." "Okay." James was still angry. "No. What are you going to do?" I was also a little annoyed. I decided to go for broke. After a while, James stared at me intently and said slowly, "Emily, since you don't think things online are real, I'll start wooing you again." James kept his word. I had just returned to the office. I hadn't even sat down. The receptionist called to say there was something for me. 10 minutes later, I returned to the office holding a big bouquet of bright red roses. He was so busy. He actually had time to order flowers. Sophia came over. She smiled and said, "Something's up." I sighed helplessly and said, "What a fateful encounter." Sophia snorted across the room, pulled out her phone, and suddenly exclaimed in a surprised voice. She said triumphantly, "James said he would drop me off on his way home from work." As soon as these words came out, and everyone was envious again, I touched the rose James gave me. I was so happy. I didn't believe a word Sophia said. Ever since I discovered that James was the gentle and cute boy in WeChat, I firmly believed that James would never like a pretentious woman. It was time to go home from work. James sent me several WeChat messages. I didn't reply. He then started calling nonstop. Sophia laughed meaningfully beside me. She said, Your suitor can't wait. She really thinks too much. I nervously ran to an unoccupied corner. I quickly answered the phone. I'll wait for you downstairs, he said. I thought to myself, if I get into the boss's car today, tomorrow the office gossip group will definitely discuss me to my embarrassment. I know the way myself. I can go back. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly, but James didn't give up. Every morning, noon and night, he made sure to schedule a meeting. Usually before lunch, a lunch box full of delicious food would be delivered to my desk. My colleagues in the office were all shocked. Even the manager was alerted. He asked me, Emily, why the CEO's secretary would be delivering your lunch. The manager asked curiously. I quietly removed the embarrassing sticky note on the lunch box. Holding it in my hand, I smiled and said perfunctorily, she's my cousin. My mom asked her to take care of me. Everyone expressed their understanding. Your cousin is really nice to you. She sends you flowers every day. My colleagues in the office all knew that there was a mysterious suitor pursuing me. Everyone speculated about what flowers they would receive today and what dishes my cousin would send. Even the excitement of discussing Sophia and James' relationship was half gone. Despite this, Sophia's sarcasm became more and more severe. The so-called suitor may not even exist. Emily, are you just trying to save face? Did you order the flowers yourself? Sophia cleared her throat and said, a bouquet from this shop costs as much as our weekly salary. If it really was Emily who ordered them, it shows that Emily is doing well financially. I gave her a quiet thumbs up, but I still sent James a message. Don't send me flowers anymore. It's a waste of money. It would be better if you just gave me the money. James has been so idle lately. He immediately replied to the message. Emily contacted me on her own initiative. I was really happy. Forget it. This guy. Just ignore him, I thought. Sophia's sarcastic comments every day were already unbearable. I didn't expect her to go crazy. She could actually go so far. She kept hyping up her scandal with the big boss, and it seemed to be working. The manager took special care of her. Even the vice president had heard of her reputation. Under the pretext of an inspection, he came to the office to inquire about her. Everyone pretended not to see her slacking off. Her work naturally fell on us. To be precise, it was mainly Sophia and me. I did 80% of the work. Sophia did 20%. That wasn't the end of it. I performed outstandingly at work. The manager intended to promote me. He asked me to write the plan. I worked overtime with the team members. Finally, I produced a plan that made the manager very satisfied. On the day of the presentation, the manager learned that the deputy director would attend the meeting. Unexpectedly, Sophia used some method. Half an hour before the meeting began, the manager suddenly found me. He asked me to give up my place in the presentation to Sophia. Although the team members were very angry, they could only accept it. After all, she had connections. She understood what was going on. Can she do a good presentation? For the first time, I lost my temper. I shouted at the manager. The manager's face turned serious. He said, "Didn't you already prepare the presentation? Give it to her." The manager's words made me feel like we had worked hard for a week only to give everything away. I knew the content of the presentation very well. The presentation was just a reminder for me. It only had a rough framework. Sure enough, Sophia's presentation was a mess. The vice president looked very unhappy. He scolded the whole department. I thought this would teach Sophia a lesson, but I didn't expect her to be so thick-skinned. After the meeting, the manager and vice president had just left the office. Sophia threw the speech directly in my face. Emily, what kind of crap speech did you write for me? Did you deliberately want to embarrass me? I looked at her distorted face. Without hesitation, I slapped her back. I had never been treated like that before. Sophia covered her face, stunned, for a moment before she came to her senses. She tried to fight back. I quickly restrained her. I pushed her against the table and punched her a few times. At that moment, the manager returned from escorting the vice president. He called me into his office. He gave me a severe reprimand. Emily, you hitting a colleague in the office is a serious matter. I will report this to my superiors. I stood my ground. We both know the truth. There are also surveillance cameras in the meeting room. There are not only surveillance cameras in the meeting room. The recorder was also on the whole time. The manager pretended to sigh. He said, Emily, you still don't understand the social intricacies of the workplace. Sophia and James's relationship is not simple. And you, who do you have to support you? I didn't want to say anything more to him. I turned around and left the manager's office. After this incident, the office was quiet. Everyone kept their heads down. They pretended to be busy. They were afraid of being implicated. Sophia secretly handed me a candy. Sophia looked at me with a smug expression. Emily, you're waiting to be fired. You feel aggrieved, of course, very much, especially doing work that I shouldn't be doing. Having my results taken away, being scolded even though I'm right. Who wouldn't feel aggrieved? Even optimistic people don't really care. I took out my phone. I felt aggrieved and angry. I started typing. Your company is definitely not going to work like this. If someone like Sophia can get in, how can it be good? James was probably busy, so he didn't reply to me right away. I went to the bathroom to wash my face. When I came back, I was in a better mood. I opened WeChat. I found that James had sent me 5 or 6 messages. What happened to Emily? Did a colleague or leader treat you badly? Don't be afraid. Be brave. I'm behind you, supporting you. A sister is always the best. Hang in there. I'll take you out for a nice dinner tonight. The more I read, the warmer my heart felt. In the end, I couldn't help but laugh. James is usually serious in front of other people, but when it comes to comforting someone, he's got it down. He can be cute and cuddly. He uses all kinds of tone words really fluently. It doesn't feel awkward at all. I deleted and edited in the chat box. In the end, I only typed 4 words. I'll do it, James asked. What's good to eat? James saw the message on the screen. He immediately became excited. He replied, your girlfriend. There are 5 minutes left before work ends. James put his suit jacket on one shoulder. He held the keys in his hand. He walked slowly into our office. Colleagues who were packing things up suddenly froze. They immediately straightened up. There were greetings of hello, James coming from all over the place. The manager heard the noise. He hurried out to see what was going on. He found out that it was James. He immediately smiled and greeted him. Hello, James. Are you here to check on the work? James looked quite happy. There was a distinct smile at the corner of his mouth. He fiddled with his key ring while casually answering questions. His eyes were scanning the office area. He said, I'm here to pick up my girlfriend from work. You guys go ahead. As soon as Sophia had finished speaking, everyone let out an involuntary gasp. Their gazes turned to her without exception. Sophia was full of confusion, but she was also a little shy. I saw James looking radiant. He had also noticed me. He smiled from afar, quickly walked over to my desk, picked up my bag, and at the same time held out his hand to me. Emily, finished work already? James was smiling broadly. It was the first time I'd seen him like that. I took his hand. Standing in front of him, I was at ease. Before leaving, James gave Sophia a cold stare. We know each other. I heard you're saying I'm after you. The people behind us had mixed expressions on their faces. They couldn't hide their surprise and whispered to each other. It's no longer relevant to me. Later that day, Emily, who had nothing better to do, started digging up the past. James, Alex said you never approach girls. You're indifferent to people. But how come you accepted me so quickly? Are you serious on the surface? But actually you're casual about relationships. James shakes his head. No, the note Alex gave you was your full name, and I knew that name a long time ago. Emily is a little puzzled. I knew it a long time ago. James replied, almost a year ago. I went to the subsidiary to check on the work. I saw a girl crouching in the lounge playing with her mobile phone. Your leader told me. That girl's name is Emily. She's the backbone of their department. Oh, Emily's eyes lit up. She asked excitedly, so you were attracted to my beauty and talent. Love at first sight. Right. James laughed and shook his head. No, at the time I just thought you spoke with a lot of authority. You were full of tricks. You could tell someone's entire family tree in just a minute. If I took you with me to a negotiation, it would definitely be interesting. James had just finished speaking when a throw pillow was thrown at him.